Hollow Knight Silksong is right around the corner, so I thought there was no better time than now to rank all of the bosses from the original. This game is beloved by many, myself included, because of various reasons. One of the big ones is of course its boss fights. There's 46 bosses in Hollow Knight by my estimation. Every boss included in the Pantheon of Hollowness, along with the original versions of Mantis Lords, Nosk, the Hollow Knight, and Radiance. And it's a miracle that with so many bosses, most of them are pretty good. The main factor I'm considering for this list is fun. So I don't have any set criteria. With that yapping out of the way though, it's time to rank. But what's the worst boss in the entire game? 46. Flukmarm. I'm sure most people who've played Hollow Knight probably saw this coming. If not at the bottom spot, you probably expected them to be quite low either way. If you don't know why Flukmarm sucks though, I'll tell you. The boss itself actually doesn't move at all. It's completely stationary in the middle of the arena and surrounded by platforms. So what's the main threat to kill you? Well, that would be the little minions that it spews out. These things can be incredibly annoying if you don't have a high enough level nail to one-shot them, but that's just the thing. If you can one-shot them, this boss is a complete cakewalk. It's a joke. But if you can't, it becomes incredibly frustrating, and you end up in an endless cycle of not being able to heal because they just keep coming at you. I don't think there's really that much else to say. This boss just kind of sucks. 45. Winged Nosk. My main problem with Winged Nosk is just that it's a knockoff of one of the very first bosses in the game. And not only that, but it's not even like good. It's just I mean, sure, it's probably technically better than the Vengefly King, but I can't bring myself to put it above it because it's the knockoff version. There are plenty of bosses in this game that get another version, and that alternate version is better than the original. But I don't see this as an alternate version of the Vengefly King, it's an alternate version of Nosk, and it's just worse than Nosk in every way. Vengefly King can be simple because you fight him super early on in the game. You don't even fight this version of Nosk until the damn Pantheons. I do like that it imitates Hornet instead of, the Knight, but that can only do so much for it. Its only unique attacks are when it spews out its infection on you, and then goes into the ceiling, which while fine, I don't think it adds enough to justify this being a completely unique fight, which is funny because it's probably the one that's most dissimilar from its original. The difference between something like Soulmaster and Soul Tyrant on paper is smaller, but that's a much better refight because it actually builds upon the original and makes it better. This is just, I don't even know what to call this. 44. Massive Moss Charger. Honestly, the only reason this is above the previous two bosses is just because it's kind of funny. Mechanically, this is probably the worst boss in the game. I mean, you literally just hit it and then it dies. That can be said about most of them, but this one it's the most true for. I mean, like, literally, I'm struggling with thinking of things to say. He just charges at you and then you hit him and then he dies. Look, if I have one hope for Silksong, is that they make the even more massive Moss Charger. That's what I want, man. 43. Vengefly King. I mean, I kind of already went over this, but this one at least is earlier on in the game, so it makes more sense to be simpler. All he does is fly under you and you have to jump over him, and then he can spawn in some little mosquito minions as well. It's a good tutorial for the pogo attack, and I like how if you decide not to do it, Zote just straight up dies. I think that's kind of funny. But yeah, it's an incredibly basic early game fight, and I don't think it stands out as much as something like Gruzmother or Brooding Moloch, to be honest. 42. Soul Warrior. Out of all of the bosses in the game, this one somehow feels like the one that's not actually a boss the most, which is crazy to say considering Massive Moss Charger exists, but I don't even know, it's just the vibe. He basically just slashes along the bottom and then teleports you above you and slams down, almost like a Diet Mantis Lords. I think this boss is fine for what it is, but it isn't much. It is basically a mini boss after all. 41. Marmu. Originally I was gonna put this guy lower, but then I realized I was probably just being irrational. I do think he's pretty annoying, but I don't think he's that bad. The entire fight basically just revolves around him trying to bump into you, and you have to make sure to hit him away, almost like a ping pong ball or something. It's a very repetitive fight, but then again, it is a Dream Warrior, so I don't know what else I would expect. And yeah, spoilers, the Dream Warriors are not going to be ranking very high. Overall, they have less involved movesets, and they're just more simple to fight against. 40, Markov. Well, that aged, well, I guess. I mean, to be fair, Markov really only has one attack. And yeah, I guess he has his shield, but this boss is very strange. In the normal game, he's not hard at all, but when you fight him in the Pantheons, he becomes way more difficult because you don't get a floor. I think either way, I don't like him very much just because his boss usually devolves into pogoing on him and trying to face tank him as well as you can, or at least it does for me. I don't hate him as much as a lot of other people do, which you can probably tell by the fact that he's not at the very bottom of the list, but I still don't really enjoy fighting him, so I think he deserves to be pretty low. 39, Abobbles. This is such a strange boss. I mean, they just shoot a bunch of infection at you and that's literally it. Other than that, they just bounce around like DVD screensavers. When you kill one of them, the other one gets enraged and I think refills their health. I don't think it's meant to be that intimidating on its own. It's really just meant to cap off the second trial. And I have a fun enough time fighting them, even though they technically only have one attack. I just find it funny that this is one of the only two bosses in the whole game. I'm fairly sure the only other ones are Uro and Mato and the God Tamer. Oh, I guess Mantis Lords. 38, Elder Who. This guy is just kind of annoying because more often than not when I fight him, he just keeps spamming that one attack where he shoots the, I don't know, hula hoops down from both sides of the screen and you have to go in between them. Or of course, if you have the Shadow Dash, you can just dash through. But the problem is when he uses that attack, he completely disappears, so you can't hit him. The fight's kind of fun when he's using his other attack, where you just have to go between the hoops as they fall down. But when he keeps spamming that one attack, it gets annoying fast. And I honestly don't think the fight's that special anyway, so I don't really have that much reason to put him any higher. I do think that if he didn't use that annoying attack as much, he would be a better fight, but what can you do? 37, Gruz Mother. This is the first boss many people fight in the game, and I mean, yeah, it definitely lives up to that. It's simple, but I like it, and I especially like the twist at the end, where when you kill it, a bunch of little Gruzzes come out. I think that's fun. But in of itself, it really just either dashes at you or flails around wildly. And it being so early on in the game, I think makes it go a little bit higher than it would have otherwise. Like, if this was anything but the first boss, it would have been lower. 36, Gorb. Now this guy literally only has one attack. The funny thing though is that I find his one attack to be more fun to dodge than, well, anything else we've talked about so far. Of course it's simple, and him teleporting around can be kind of annoying sometimes, but his attack pattern can be very satisfying to weave through. Also, he makes a lot of noises throughout the fight, and it's kind of funny. I mean, it's Gorb. My second wish for Silksong, other than Massive Moss Charger 2, is Gorb 2. Come on, let's get both of them. Maybe it can be a duo fight. 35, Zero. I feel like I should like this guy more. This doesn't feel high enough for him, but to be honest, I just don't have that much fun fighting him. He just sends out these little pins at you and flies back and forth. It can be hard to heal considering he's basically constantly on the attack, but his phase 2 doesn't really add much. It just, you know, makes him attack more often. All you really gotta do is just move left and right and stay clear of them when they come back. I don't know what it is about this guy that makes him just not my favorite to fight, but I still think he's decent, you know? 34, No Eyes. Now this is a boss that I definitely contemplated putting a little bit lower, but I think it's actually a little bit better than I gave it credit for. Yes, the teleporting around the arena can be a bit annoying, especially in the version with thorns, but the atmosphere of this fight is unlike basically anything else in the whole game, and it can be fairly fun to dodge the bullets and try to maneuver the arena to get to her. I definitely don't think it's the best thing in the world, but it's serviceable at the very least. 33, Enraged Guardian. The main reason this is lower than the original Crystal Guardian is, well, just the same reason why I had Wing Nos lower than normal Nos. I think it's a downgrade from the original, because unlike most of the other advanced versions, there isn't any new moves here. It's mechanically the same exact fight, except he does double damage. Although it's honestly kind of easier because you have the double jump, which you probably don't have when you fight the first Crystal Guardian. The fight's already simple, so I don't think making it do double damage really amps up the difficulty at all. If anything, I think the orange lasers look kinda cool. 32, Nosk. I might have already said that I don't like Wing Nosk, but to be honest, I don't really like the normal Nosk either. He moves around a lot, and that's fine, but I think the way that the arena is designed makes it very strange, because the optimal strategy is just to hide under the corner and hit him when he runs over over you. He spreads goop over and then goes into the ceiling. I mean, he has alright attacks, and of course the lead up to the fight is amazing. But for some reason, I just never really got this fight. Like, yeah, it's alright, but to be honest, I don't think it's anything special. 31. Umu. This is just one spot on the list, but the two versions of this fight are quite different. The one where you're in the archives, you just have to wait for Quirrell to hit him, and then you can, get your own hits in. But in the Pantheons, you have to hit the explosive jellyfish into Umu. Obviously, the one in Pantheon is more interactive and more difficult, but I honestly like the one in the archives better just because, I mean, it's Quirrell. Everyone loves Quirrell. Either way, though, this fight just involves a lot of waiting. It has two attacks, either the one where you just have to run, or the one where you have to find a place that isn't getting electrocuted. I think it's a cool idea, especially integrating Quirrell into the boss fight, but it's not very interactive, and it is mostly a waiting game. 30. Tiso. I mean, Brooding Moloch. I like this boss because you can either fight him after getting the Mantis Claw, or fight him earlier on if you want to pogo off of the spikes. And fighting him without the dash is actually pretty fun. No matter which way you decide to do it though, it's not too hard. And the main part of the fight is just dodging his claw swipes. And of course, if he shoots the big spurt, just go over him. There's nothing wrong with early game fights being simple, but I do think there are examples of some early game fights, like Mantis Lords for example, that just do it better, even as an early game fight. 29. False Knight. Well, I guess this is an example of that too. Maybe it's just because I'm used to the failed champion, but the False Knight feels incredibly slow. It feels like you're barely even fighting anyone. I'm sure that's not something that people who are newer to the game feel, and I think I remember that I didn't have a super easy time with him when I first played it, but either way, I do think he's a good introduction, and especially, the reveal that he's being controlled by a maggot is kind of funny. He has simple mace slams and just jumps around pretty lethargically. This is the first mandatory fight if you're doing, a normal playthrough, and I think it works very well as that. 28. Crystal Guardian. This is the original version of the Enraged Guardian, and while he only does normal damage, he is the first one, so I put him a bit higher. He's a very simple fight, and it mainly just evolves to you jumping over him, but I don't know, there's something about that I like. Maybe it's just the fact that he's sitting on the bench before you get to it, and it's like a little test before you can sit on the bench. It's simple but fun, so I think it falls right in line with the False Knight and Brooding Moloch area of bosses. 27. The Collector. I think around now is when I would say that all bosses here or higher are pretty great. Not that the bosses below were bad, but I think this is where Hollow Knight's bosses really get good. And starting off with the Collector. This is a very simple fight on paper, he just jumps around and spawns in some minions, but the aura he has is undeniable. He's constantly laughing maniacally and jumping around all over the place, it's very manic. Although the fight is incredibly simple, I still think the presentation really carries it above all else. This is a fight though like Flukmarm, where if you have a nail high enough level to one-shot the enemies, it's way easy. But if you can't one-shot them, it becomes a little bit more tricky. Overall, I'd say it's definitely worth it to go out of your way to fight this guy, even if only for his death animation. 26. Galeon. This is my favorite Dream Warrior fight, and it's not even close. If I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't know what it is exactly about Galeon that makes me like him more than the rest, but if I had to say, I think it's just that his attack, like all the Dream Warriors, is simple, but it's the most fun to dodge for me, especially because it escalates in a normal way throughout the fight. I do think he's incredibly easy to face tank and spam quick slashes on if you're using that charm, but even if you do that, I think he's fairly fun to fight. To be honest, this is the only Dream Warrior that I wish would have been expanded into a more real fight, if you know what I mean. 25. Hornet. This is the original fight in Green Path, and I do obviously think that the Sentinel version is better, but the original is still good. I think it's one of the best early game fights, and it's really the first one that might challenge new players. This is a fight that's really just about learning what attack she has and how to dodge each one of them, because a lot of the bosses I've talked about up to this point just don't really have that much attacks. And that's what I think separates the good bosses from the great ones. I like fights where they have a bunch of attacks that they can choose from at any time. I think it just makes it more engaging. 24. Soul Master. This fight is an amazing way to cap off the City of Tears. I like the way that he teleports around the arena, and it really makes it so you have to chase him down. And I especially love the attack where he has the orb circle around him and you need to get in between them as he moves across the arena. And of course we have to talk about the transition into the second phase. The second phase in general is just really unexpected. Although it's very simple, I just think it's a really cool idea. Though this is one of the bosses that I think suffers from having just an objectively better version, and I can't help but look at him and feel like, well, I mean, he's good, but he's not as good as Soul Tyrant, so that's why I think he ranks around here. 23. Broken Vessel. And this is kind of just the same story. Although this guy, honestly, is kind of easier than Soul Master, to be honest. This fight's very easy, at least comparatively to what I would expect it to be at this point in the game. That's okay though, because I think it's more of a war fight than anything else. I mean, it is incredibly cool finding this guy down here. Although he has very simple attacks, and most of the time he just dashes forward, I still think the vibes of this boss are really good. 22. Failed Champion. This is the dream version of the False Knight, and unlike the False Knight, you'll notice that this boss is very fast. Not only that, but he does double damage. I think the first time I played the game, Failed Champion was one of the hardest fights for me. The fact that he did 2 massive damage and moved around so quick was hard to get a hang of. Although I do think that might have just been a skill issue because the most recent time I fought him, he was easy. Although I will say that might have been due to Quick Slash being incredibly effective on him. He's basically just False Knight, but way faster and double damage. That's literally it. I don't think he has any new attacks. That's all it is. Because of that, I don't have him that much higher than False Knight. Bosses like Lost Kin and Soul Tyrant, I think, improve upon the original a lot more than Failed Champion improves upon False Knight. I still think it's better, of course, but I don't think it's by that much of a degree. 21. The Hollow Knight. It feels weird putting this guy about midway through the list, but I couldn't really think of any better place to put him. The main strength of this boss is, of course, the lore. Seeing the Hollow Knight in this state where he can really barely defend himself as he gets taken over by the infection is very good for the game's story. But as a result of that, the actual gameplay of the boss fight isn't really anything special. It's designed to be a bit easier, especially because it leads into the Radiance. We'll see quite a bit later in the list what an actual version of this fight would look like. It's a good boss, but I just think that the other version of it improves upon it so much that I can't put this any higher. 20. Watcher Knights. Isn't it funny how there's mostly single battles in this game, a couple of duo ones, and then there's just the Watcher Knights with 6 knights you need to fight. Now, they're not all at once, but that's still just a pretty absurd number. That said, I think it's a perfect challenge for this point in the game. To get here the intended way, you have to have the double jump, and for a lot of people, this will be the boss guarding their first Dreamer. They have fairly simple attacks, but it's mostly an endurance battle. You have to fight 2 of them at once, and you have to fight a lot of them in total. Having low damage is going to be pretty terrible for this boss. Although some might consider it a little bit boring because you're just kind of fighting the same guy 6 times in a row, I think it's very unique in terms of all of the Hollow Knight bosses taken into account. 19. Dung Defender. Who doesn't love the Dung Defender? He makes silly odd noises and has a really good theme song. All of his attacks are fun to dodge. The one where he's diving in and out of the mud. Not mud. I don't know why I said mud. Of course, the one where he throws the balls around. You can bounce him in the air if you keep up-slashing him. This fight just has a really whimsical energy to it, and I especially like the sort of super attack he has where he keeps bouncing out of the ground over and over. I hate to repeat myself, but again, this is a fight that I do think just has a better version. That said though, I think the original still holds up quite well. 18. God Tamer. This was actually one of the last bosses I fought the first time I played the game, and if you know why, you know why. It's because this is the fight at the very end of the Trial of the Fool, which is incredibly long and arduous. Honestly, I'd low-key say it's harder than the Pantheon of Hollowness, but that is not an agreeable take, I'm sure. The Tamer herself just kind of jumps around, while the beast will roll and then shoot some acid at you. Infection, or whatever it is. The cool thing about this fight though is that if you kill the beast, the Tamer will just give up. So it's always worth it to just go after the beast first and not focus down the Tamer. Or I guess the god, because if that's the Tamer, then I guess the beast is a god. I don't know why the boss is called that now that I think about it. Well, actually, aren't they all called gods in the Hall of Gods? That's weird, isn't it? I never really thought of it. Why are they all gods? You're telling me Flukemorm is a god? But yeah, I think this fight can be stressful due to where it's placed, and I think that's a good thing for it. At least to the stakes being really high. 17. Hornet Sentinel. This is like the normal Hornet fight, but get this, better. She has a few new attacks, like these steel balls she'll put up around the arena and then explode, and then of course her counter. Not to mention the fact that the arena is really good. It's a pivotal point in the game because she blocks off the King's Brand, which you need to get the true ending and access the Abyss. Dueling with Hornet at Kingdom's Edge is just a really cool idea, and I think this rematch does a good job building upon the original. 16. Paintmaster Shio. This is just a really solid one-on-one fight. Shio has a bunch of different colors of paint, and each color coordinates with an attack. The red one is the down slash, and the yellow one's going to be the big beam of paint, and it's really nice seeing all the colors. It's a very good looking fight. I honestly wish we got a proper arena for this, because I'm thinking of some like artist's paint house thing, I don't know. I just think it would have been neat. It honestly hurts not to put this higher, but I mean, we're getting into the really good fights now, so it's to be expected. He has a really solid moveset and is just fun to learn. 15, Lost Kin. I think starting off with the top 15, I can confidently say that these 15 are all amazing, if not perfect. I honestly think that if you arrange these top 15 in any order, I wouldn't side-eye you too much. Although I'm sure some of the bosses in this top 15 could definitely be disagreeable, I do think they all deserve their place here, personally. I mean, obviously, I made the list. But Lost Kin basically just takes what Broken Vessel had and makes it perfect. He's still kind of easy, but he's definitely harder than the original. He's faster and way more of the infection balloons spawn in. I do think it's a little bit odd just how much he staggers. Like, I don't know if this is just me, but it feels like this boss specifically staggers a lot. Maybe that's done to give you more downtime because of the constant infection balloons, but I don't know. 14, Hive Knight. If you asked me offhandedly before I made this list what my favorite Hollow Knight boss is, there's a good chance I would have said Hive Knight. Not only is the theming and arena just great, the soundtrack is awesome too. The only thing though is that upon a little bit further inspection, I do think he's a little bit too simple. Not as a fight in general, I just think for being my favorite, you know what I mean? He has a dash attack and then he can teleport behind you, and then of course he has the big bee spurt out of his mouth. But especially at the point in the game where he's placed, nothing he can do should really catch you too off guard. 13, the Radiance. It is a little bit crazy to me that I'm putting Radiance at only 13, but if I had to say why, it's again because I think she has a better version. The base game Radiance though is no slouch. She does double damage and has a bunch of attacks you need to learn. Not only that, but it's placed after the Hollow Knight fight, and you need to beat that every time you want to retry Radiance. The Radiance is really a bullet hell fight at heart. The needles, the sun rays, everything, it's all just very bullet helly. And I do think the first phase is actually my favorite, because once you get to the second where you're on a bunch of scattered platforms, it becomes more about maneuvering around the arena and your relationship to where the Radiance is located. It's still fun though, and I really like the big pillars of light that force you to use your shadow dash. And then of course at the end you have to climb up all the steps and hit her one last time to finish the fight. This boss is a perfect way to end the game if you're going for the true ending, and to be honest, it probably would have been higher if it wasn't for the absolute Radiance existing. 12, Troop Master Grimm. This is the exact same case, really. Troop Master Grimm is a great fight, it's just that Nightmare King Grimm kind of outclasses it. I don't want that to get in the way of how good this fight is though, because, well, yes, it is a lot slower than Nightmare King, it's still an amazing fight. Most of the attacks are the same as Nightmare King, and while not dealt as fast, they still flow together nicely. The touch of needing to not hit him at the start as he pows or else he'll go into his pufferfish attack immediately, it's just a really fun thing to add. I guess I'll talk about it more when I get to Nightmare King Grimm, but it's just a really fun fight, even if it is slower and he only does 1 damage. 11, Grey Prince Zote. Right outside the top 10 is one of the most interesting fights in the game. It's very strange at first, and learning this fight can be really just off-putting. Not off-putting in like, oh, it's creepy, but more so just like, what is he, what? Half of his attacks are just him falling on his ass or something. But that's part of the fun of the fight. It's not supposed to be completely serious. Even just the way that if you refight him a bunch of times, he'll start getting new attacks and doing more damage and getting more prefixes before his name. Honestly, it's criminal that I couldn't put this guy in the top 10. Well, I mean, I could have, While I do think this fight's really funny, I just think that the 10 above it are better. And there was clearly a lot of effort and love put into this fight, so I really appreciate it for what it is. And actually, no, third wish for Hollow Knight Silksong. Zote 2, Imagine. Just think about it, alright? 10, Mantis Lords. The top 10 bosses in Hollow Knight. I don't know if this is controversial because I'm sure a lot of people would put Mantis Lords at like top 5 minimum, but I still think it's an amazing boss. You fight the one Mantis Lord and get used to all their attacks, and then when you defeat them, they throw you into 2 at once. It's perfect. Especially for early game, the speed of this fight is about as good as it can get. After fighting against Sisters of Battle though, I don't know. I'm sure this is just a me thing, but I think Mantis Lords honestly feel a little bit too slow. Of course, that's just me being brain rotted by, you know, having like beaten the game and stuff, but I don't know what else to say. I just think that the stuff like Sisters of Battle is better. This is still great though, I'm not trying to trash it at all. 9, Traitor Lord. Okay, look, I have to be honest. Out of all the bosses in my top 10, I'm sure this is probably technically the worst one. I mean, really, he has like 2 attacks plus some projectiles, which is fine. It's an okay okay moveset, but then why do I like this boss so much? Well, it comes down to multiple things. Number 1, the arena, just really cool arena. Number 2, being able to fight him with cloth is basically just as good as being able to fight Umu with Quirrell. Well, maybe not as good, but the ending where he kills cloth makes up for it. 3, you have to defeat some enemies in the arena before the boss appears. I know this isn't something that I mentioned for something like False Knight, but for Traitor Lord, it really feels like his guards are protecting him or something. I guess what I mean to say is that a lot of what I like about this fight is really just vibes, and I love the fact that he does double damage. This fight feels important. Maybe if it's even not that hard, it still feels like it matters. And although his attacks are simple, they're still very satisfying to dodge, especially if you want to use the Shadow Dash. I'm sure that this is probably a little bit too high, but I can't deny that I just really like the Traitor Lord. 8. Oro and Mato. This is the best duo fight in the game, and I don't think it's even close. I mean, Sisters of Battle doesn't count. And I mean, I guess it also is close if you count Mantis Lords, but you know what I'm trying to say, is that it's just really good. It's a similar thing to Mantis Lords, where you start off with just one to get used to the moveset, and then you have to fight two at once. Their movesets are kind of a little bit similar to Watcher Knights, at least their sword slashes are, but they have these cool jump attacks, and they can each use their nail arts. I love that each of the brothers use their own nail art. Oro uses the dash slash, and Mato uses the cyclone spin, or whatever it's called. I think the best part about this fight though is the AI. Whenever I fight this boss, it really feels like they're both taking turns trying to take swings at me. Like one of them will come in, try to attack, and then back off, and then the other one will go in for a hit. I think that it's really fun for the flow, and it also ensures that you're not just gonna kill one of them and have the other one at like full health. But I mean, as far as duo fights go, I really do hope that Silksong has at least one as good as this. If it does, then it'll be an amazing fight. 7. White Defender. What if you took everything from the Dung Defender fight and, I mean, well, made it better, I guess. You can probably tell that it's better. The main new additions here are, well, number 1, he's just faster, but also his little, like, spike attacks. There's one where it's a close range and you have to get out, and then another one where it goes across the whole stage and you have to shadow dash through. I think those add a lot of variance to the fight, and of course, I should say it again, his theme music is really good. In fact, it's a remix of his original theme, but it's even better. The little touch of when you kill him, he'll look out to his fellow knights, it's really cool. White Defender isn't really the hardest boss, and it's nothing too complicated, but it's honestly one of the most fun. 6. Soul Tyrant. Talk about a glow up. I mean, the normal Soul Master is cool and all, but the Soul Tyrant is amazing. I love how fast he is, because it really makes you have to think fast after everything he does. And the addition of the extra infection ball thingy during the moving attack is really nice, because it just makes that way more difficult just by one small thing. I honestly think it's crazy how much better I think this fight is than the original, considering it's not that big of a difference. It's mainly just about his speed, but I think him being this much faster really goes a long way. Although sometimes it can be a little annoying because you'll keep teleporting away from you, but honestly that's the price you pay. I really like this fight, and I think it deserves to be all the way up here. 5. Absolute Radiance. This boss is kind of hard to judge for me, and the main reason for that is because I've only actually fought her twice. The first time was the first time I beat Pantheon of Hollownest, and the second time was the second time I beat Pantheon of Hollownest. Maybe they were both flukes, but I never died to her, and I think that's because of one simple reason. This boss, at least from what I can tell, isn't actually that different from Radiance. It's basically all the same attacks, she's just a lot faster, but of course with a brand new final phase that makes the end of the fight incredibly dramatic. I think the fast speed of the fight makes it super fun to dodge everything. The normal Radiance is a bullet hell, but this version is even more bullet hell. Yeah. And the nerves factor that I talked about with God Tamer is definitely present here as well, considering you can only fight her at the end of the Pantheon of Hollownest. Or you could probably fight her in Hall of Gods too, if I had to guess. I do think sometimes the little, like, magical sun projectiles she sends out can be hard to see with the background, but to be honest, that's probably just a me problem. So I think overall, this boss is definitely one of the best ones in the game. 4. Sly. Sly is a boss where when I first fought him, I did not really like his fight that much. I didn't really understand how it worked, and it just felt like he had a million attacks and he would just keep hitting me. But when you learn this fight, you realize that it is actually insanely good. The main thing that you have to do in this fight that makes it unique from a lot of other Hollow Knight fights is that you have to sort of bait out his attacks and then punish him afterwards. For a lot of Hollow Knight bosses, you just kind of hit them while they're attacking and make sure not to get hit. But for Sly, it's very much like you need to move out of the way and position yourself correctly. Like with the one attack where he spins up into the air and you need to go under him. And his small low hitbox makes it so the positioning is even more important, because he has a huge sword, so you kinda need to get close and then get out fast. More than most other bosses, learning his moves is paramount to victory, and his final phase, while simple, is still a good way to cap off the fight. And I even like the fact that he uses all 3 of the nail arts, because I mean, of course, he's the nail sage, or nail master, whatever he's called. 3. Sisters of Battle. The 3 best bosses in Hollow Knight, so it's only fitting that the number 3 spot goes to a trio. The first part will play out as the normal Mantis Lord's fight does, where you're up against just one, but then, of course, all 3 stand up. I don't think anything in this game is as fun as dodging all 3 Mantis Lords coming at you at once. It's such a perfect idea, and I'm so glad they added it. It's incredibly hectic, and you cannot stop to heal while they're all coming at you, but that just makes it all the more fun. You know their moves already. You've beaten Mantis Lords multiple times if you're at the Pantheon of Hollownest. You just need to execute on the plan, and the plan is to survive. Sorry, that was not a hard line. Once you kill one of them, it becomes a lot less exciting, just because, well, then it's just normal Mantis Lords, and that's probably the reason why it's only at number 3. To be honest, this could have been a contender for number 1 if it kept up that fast-paced excitement for the whole time. I honestly think it would have been really cool if they all shared a health pool. I know that would have been insane, but if they all shared the same health pool and you needed to deal with all 3 of them for the whole duration of phase 2, that would have been the best fight in the game. As it is though, it's still incredibly fun enough to be number 3. 2. Nightmare King Grimm. Coming up just short of the number 1 spot is the Nightmare King of Grimm. I'm sorry, I'm trying. What can I say about Nightmare King Grimm that hasn't been said already? He's just Troop Master Grimm, but better in every way. He does 2 massive damage, which makes it so that any mistake punishes you doubly, but the speed of the fight is just jacked up really high. Every attack will give you no chance to breathe between them. He'll go immediately into another one, and the only time you have to heal is maybe when he does the Floor Spikes attack, and, well, when he's in his bat form. The red glow in the arena is just epic, and the new Flame Pillar attack is a good place to get hits in, while also being fun to dodge. The flow in this fight is unmatched, and mechanically is honestly probably the best fight in the game. Or, not even probably, I do think that this is mechanically the best fight in the game. Everything just works together so perfectly to make, well, the perfect fight. So why isn't it number 1? Well, there's one fight that I think is almost just as good mechanically, but I also think it's just a little bit better in other ways as well. Number 1, Pure Vessel. Fighting the Hollow Knight in his prime is probably something a lot of people wanted to do before Godmaster was added. I wouldn't really know. I don't think I played this game before Godmaster was added. But either way, it's freaking awesome. Because unlike the normal Hollow Knight fight, it's not free. It's actually pretty hard. He does 2 massive damage. It has a bunch of moves he can pull out. Of course, he has his normal slashes and dashes, but he also has a counter and these funny little white orb thingies he can spawn, swords from the floor. It's all just so cool. Not to mention, he has the best song in the entire game behind him, and I will stand by that. I think it's better than City of Tears, and I think it's better than the Hornet, Mantis Lords, or Nightmare King Grimm theme. And I mean, of course, I think it's better than the normal Hollow Knight theme, although that's honestly probably number 2. The whole white, clean aesthetic is just really sick to look at as well. And at the end of the fight, when he starts pulling up the void tendrils, oh, it's just so good. I honestly don't know what else to say about this fight. I think it is the pinnacle of Hollow Knight. Maybe not mechanically, but a combination of mechanics and just, I mean, like, being awesome in every way. I mean, look at this, come on, it's so cool. But yeah, that's my favorite boss in all of Hollow Knight. With that said, I'm very excited for Silksong. I think if Silksong has a boss roster even half as good as this, well, I mean, I guess it would be a disappointment, but it'll probably have a boss roster as good as this at least. And I mean, hey, I'm hyped. If you enjoyed and would like to see more like this, I'd appreciate a like or subscribe. See ya if I see ya.